All right, let's explore with the two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and our guy Ryan Wilson. Gentlemen, second half became a bit nondescript at times, but first half looked like a Buffalo from this year and Green Bay from this year. We'll get to both sides of it, but Ryan Wilson, I'll go your way first. Your biggest takeaway from this 60 minutes of football is what?
Well, this is exactly what B-Mac and I talked about at half. What were the Packers going to do to get back in this game? They had to be able to run the ball. They had to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that were presented to them, and they had those 2 turnovers, and they were able to get back in this game. Unfortunately, they weren't able to play flawless football from the third quarter on, only because after that first Josh Allen interception, Aaron Rodgers threw an interception on the very next play. But I thought it showed some fight we haven't seen in this Packers team for much of the season. We heard Matt LaFleur when he came out after half. He was pretty fired up, and it sounds like he gave the Packers a talking to in the locker room, and they responded. And I think there are some positives you can take away. They didn't have their 2 starting linebackers for most of the game. They were without most of their starting wide receivers for most of the game. Sammy Watkins left, and by the end, it was a ragtag group that hadn't caught a lot of passes from Aaron Rodgers. So I think that's the positive if you're the Packers. And if there are any negatives about the Bills, I think it's the second half performance in that Josh Allen seemed to be a little careless with the football. We haven't seen that from him in quite some time. The first interception was a mistake. The second interception was an absolutely unacceptable, terrible throw. You can't have that from Josh Allen. But all told, they still won by 10 points, still one of the best teams in football. They just played for about 35 minutes before they put it on cruise control.
Yeah, and that tells you how good the Buffalo Bills, how good they are, right? A sloppy ball game from Josh Allen. You talked about the careless mistakes, the 2 turnovers, inconsistencies from the offensive side, and they still won by double digits. Granted, they didn't cover the hook. The hook was very, very important in this game for you guys that took Green Bay. But in the reality side of things, they still won by double digits. This is a strong team. And you talk about the bright spots in the second half of the Green Bay Packers. Yes, you talked about the turnovers, Ryan. I agree with you. Defensively, getting timely stops. We saw a sense of urgency from the pass catchers. What about Aaron Jones? I mean, he's been balling the entire season. In a year where the offense, as far as throwing the football, hasn't been relevant, the most important, consistent thing they've been able to do has been running the football with Aaron Jones. So a bright spot in the second half. We saw more of a sense of urgency from the Green Bay Packers, but it was a little too late based on the lead the Buffalo Bills was able to jumpstart in the first half.
I'm glad you said a little too late, because that might be the story of the season. Now, not all is lost as we approach the halfway mark here for the Green Bay Packers, but this is the first time that the Packers rush for 200 yards and lose a football game since 2003. Maybe that is the road back for them, but they now chase 4 games in that loss column behind the Minnesota Vikings. Is that the road back here, B-Mac? When you take a look at the Green Bay Packers running the football, is that their best course towards victory? And second part here, do they have a quarterback that's willing to resign to that fact?
I think based on what we've seen, Joe, yes. That's the best route for them to be successful. Now we have to address the issue, the pass catchers. And this is an issue that started in the offseason. When you found out you were losing Devontae Adams, you look at what they tried to do to improve that room, bringing in guys like Sammy Watkins. We understand they made some moves via the draft, but these guys are not it. That has been the issue. You look week in and week out, the inability to create separation has been well documented. And because of that, Aaron Rodgers is looking average. So they have to devote more of their time and attention in running the football, because throwing the football, they can't do it anymore based on the pass catcher. So that has to be the best route. But what happens when you can't run the football? At some point in time, with a future Hall of Famer, you would love to be able to put the ball in his hands and allow him to do what he's been able to do throughout his professional career. But they have not been able to do that. And they won't go far just running the football. That I know.
No, that's exactly right, B-Mac. And part of me wonders if we always talk about these franchise quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, one of the best ever. We know that. But when did Josh Allen, when did the switch flip for him? When they went out and got Stephon Diggs. Look, maybe some of that's coincidence. I don't think it hurt to have Stephon Diggs in your team. And you can look around the league and you can find these football teams. The Miami Dolphins drafted Jalen Waddle, went out and got Tyreek. Tua looks like a game changer now. Jalen Hurts. He has A.J. Brown, who went off today, along with Devontae Smith, who they drafted. The Packers seem to be going backwards when it comes to surrounding Aaron Rodgers receivers with playmakers either through the draft or letting Devontae Adams go via trade and not having any replacement plan in place. And that has showed itself throughout the course of this season. And you're right. Look, you can have Aaron Jones going absolutely crazy each and every week. There's no way he's going to drag this team to the playoffs by himself. So unless you have some magical wide receivers hiding somewhere that have yet to be revealed, the Packers are probably in for a long season. They can get some guys healthy. They can get some guys get more experience as we go through this thing at wide receiver because a lot of these players are young, but that's not going to fix everything that ails this Packers offense because this has been an issue not just over the last 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. You can go back quite a while and pinpoint exactly when the Packers decided to say, we're done with the wide receivers. We'll let Aaron Rodgers figure this out. And, Joe, here we are.
Yeah, Aaron Jones, Tom Jones, Jonathan Jones, doesn't matter. You lose the best wide receiver in the game. Your offense is going to take a hit, guys. Let's talk about the Buffalo side here because they're now 6-1. And if we're talking about quarterbacks, franchise quarterbacks at that, wins over Lamar, Mahomes, Stafford, and Rodgers, taking down an MVP bloodline, as we told that story coming into this game. As you take a look at where they're at right now, turning the calendar to November, let's nitpick because the second half opened up some room for criticism. Not just in that 30 minutes of football, Ryan, but what you've seen from them, comprehensive effort throughout this season. Where do they need to be better to make sure that they're peaking come playoff time?
I mean, we are definitely nitpicking at this point. And don't forget, Joe and B-Mac, some guy named Tre'Davious White hasn't even played yet. He might be the best player on that defense that includes Von Miller. So we're picking nits. And look, you can say the run defense didn't show up in the second half. You can say that Josh Allen wasn't focused, and I would agree with both those things as I would imagine Coach Sean McDermott would. But I guarantee you this, their next game, those guys are going to be laser focused on both sides of the ball. So I guess you can run on the Bills a little bit. If you're down by 15 or more points in the second half, I guess you can force Josh Allen into mistakes if he feels like he's invincible, which many times he is. But I don't know what an easy way is to beat this football team, given the way that they're playing, given the focus with which they have on most plays. Put aside for a moment the final 30 minutes where they seem to be coasting. This team is legit in every sense of the word, and I said it before the game, and I'll repeat it now. They're playing football that a lot of us are not familiar with over the course of this season. They've been that good.
Yeah, trying to figure out what they could do better, like you said, Ryan, is nitpicking. But I would say health, right? They lost Jordan Poyer tonight, elbow injury. We don't know how severe that is. Of course, Micah Hyde is on IR. You talked about Trey White. When will he be able to return? That's the issue.
Yeah.
I think health could really hamper the progress for this team, being able to not only get into the playoffs, but make a deep, significant run. If they stay healthy, you don't question the talent on both sides of the football. So health will probably be the one thing you want to monitor with this team because they're so dialed in, they're so focused. When they have all their troops on deck, it's hard to beat this team. It's hard to beat this team. So I think health will probably be the one flaw for this team. And you think about the one loss as well, guys. Remember, when they played Miami, even though it was a close ball game, they played the Dolphins missing like 3 or 4 starters, if I'm not mistaken, on the defensive side, and they still was right there. So if they can just stay healthy, no question, they will do everything that we thought they would do plus more.
We're looking for issues right now, and you can't find many because a 10-point win often doesn't beg criticism. But these are the Buffalo Bills, and they have one goal in mind. That is the Super Bowl. Gentlemen, fantastic work all day long. We appreciate you. And don't forget, there's more BMAC to be had on All Things Covered. BMAC and P2 sitting down with some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment for can't-miss conversations week in and week out. They give you the perspective both on and off field. It's All Things Covered, and it's yours to enjoy.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.